Welcome back to the Seattle Sports Union podcast. My name is Abraham DeWeese. I'm back again with Savage Nathan Savage, and the Southwest Seahawk, Rob English. And we have a huge game coming up here, the Indianapolis Colts versus the Seattle Seahawks. And Nathan, what's going on there with the Colts there? It seems like they're in a complete disarray.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best stories coming out this week. I'm super excited about it, honestly. It's just they happen to be playing the Seahawks, so I'm going to be rooting against it for this week. But Phillip Rivers is back. I think he wants to make sure his seasons played in the NFL matches the number of kids he has. So it's getting a little too close there. And at 44, he wants to come back and see what he looks like as an NFL quarterback. And I just love it. I think we've been seeing it a lot lately with guys like Flacco. Rodgers is doing his thing and the Steelers, where that generation was maybe the best generation of quarterbacks we've seen, and they're sticking around for a long time, and Rivers was right in the middle of that. So it's great to have him back.
I don't know about that. It seems kind of reckless. No, I'm serious. It seems reckless. Like this guy is just a little bit younger than me, and and I know I don't want me out there.
That we know.
He's gonna
This is a bad week, I think, to be your first week at 44, but other than that, I like it. Yeah.
Wouldn't it be safer to put Ripien out there and just let him get killed and play Rivers in a better situation, give him at least a week practice to see if he can do this?
Yeah, I mean, so. Yeah. I don't know what's going to end up happening. I think the story is really good on the field.
Looks like you blanked out there for a second. What were you saying? The story's good on the field?
Yeah, the story sounds really good this week. On the field, I'm not too sure what that's going to look like. I don't even know if he's going to end up being the starter. Their undrafted rookie from Notre Dame that played last week is fully off the injury report. So we'll see. It sounds like Ripien might be one of those, better coaches that they put as their veteran third string quarterback. So maybe that's why they got Rivers as the backup, but I have no idea. We'll see what happens tomorrow.
Rob, you look like a guy who's like, I don't care. I can't wait for my Seahawks to murder another quarterback this year.
Well, as
you're cold-blooded. You're cold-blooded.
Listen, as you know, I spent a lot of time in San Diego. So,
okay.
I watched a lot of Phillip Rivers football. I like a lot of things about Phillip Rivers. I don't know that him coming back this week is the best thing for him. I feel I have mixed feelings about it. Like, part of me feels like, should we take it easy on him? Because, the Seattle defense is hardcore on the quarterback, and Phillip Rivers is coming off the couch. He's overweight. He's all these things. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I'm like, should we just two-hand touch him down for this game? Because, what's the potential for this to go sideways is real, I think. Conversely, I think the only thing that would make this truly epic would be if he comes off the couch, literally off the couch, and just lights us up for like 350 plus and like 3 or 4 touchdowns. That would just be wild. It'd almost be worth it happening just for it to happen. So I don't know.
I'm disappointed in both of you. You both are too sentimental. You have too much heart. I take you guys as more as Grinches. I took Nathan, your last name, Savage. I expect a little more savage out of you. And Southwest Seahawk, it's all about the Seahawks. What are you doing having feelings for another team?
I mean, I still want us to win. I mean, look, the spread has gone from 13.5 to 14 to now back down to 13.5. I know we're going to go out there. We're probably going to trounce them, but it's just, I don't know. I never had any hate for Phillip Rivers, and seeing him back on the field is kind of cool. But yeah, obviously, I would much rather us, stomp him into the ground than anything else. I'm just
you're saying that
because I'm feeling.
That's what people expect you to say. That's what I expected you to say.
I finally came around. I had to take that long walk to get back where I needed to be.
Get back into the sports hate mode. That's what I want.
Yeah, I think if there was a little more fear, we'd be a little harder on Rivers. I don't know if there's a lot of fear this week, so that's probably helping. And, just being sentimental, like you said, I'm glad you brought up San Diego. There's a really good running back. Maybe Jonathan Taylor was having maybe the best season since LT to start this season. Tyler Warren looks like just a complete game breaker at tight end. We know Rivers can hand the ball off and throw it to the tight end. So maybe that's their recipe for success. I don't really see it. I want him to have success. I want them to have success. McDonald, in my opinion, is just too good of a defensive coordinator. We saw the film of what he did last week, pulling guys out of coverage, putting them in to rush, bringing Emin Wari all over the field. I just think that's such a bad matchup for Rivers that I don't have the fear that I would normally have. That would probably push me to be a little more harsh on a guy like Rivers this week. If he plays, I hope he hands the ball off a lot, doesn't have to throw it too much. And I hope it's exactly like the spread is showing, about a 2-touchdown lead for the Seahawks, and we can enjoy watching a 44-year-old quarterback play in the NFL without worrying about the Seahawks winning or losing.
Yeah, by the way, LT for you older folks is LaDainian Tomlinson, not Lawrence Taylor.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I shook my head when you say LT. I'm still annoyed that that's the nickname and not Lawrence Taylor's nickname. Anyway.
I'm saying
All
they're
props.
both LT. There's got the OG LT, and then you have, LT. They're both LT.
Well, shouldn't he be LDT? LaDainian Tomlinson?
You get offensive LT and defensive LT, basically.
Okay.
So I meant
Yeah.
offensive LT. Yeah.
Well, unlike you guys,
one word.
I want the Colts to come in here. I want them to get thrashed, and I want them to feel like they were wrong for having come here in the first place. And
Right.
it's
Like they should have just forfeited when they saw it on the schedule, especially at
They
this point in
should've.
the year.
yeah, they don't have a quarterback. They should just refuse to play like Notre Dame. Speaking of which, and I know, Rob, you're not super big into college, but you can speak to this. I hope just from maybe a casual viewer. Notre Dame turned down the bowl game. There isn't much that I could find as far as precedence to this. It definitely seems like a crybaby situation where they picked up their ball, went home because they didn't go to the playoffs. Is this good or bad for the college sport? It's shocking.
I think it's terrible for the sport. I think that Notre Dame just needs to join a conference and stop. Like they are kind of sort of halfway. But like every other sport, they're part of the conference, right? And except for football, right? So
Yeah,
they just want to be this unincorporated entity. And I think that works against them. I mean, if they would have a better shot if they were, if their schedule was different based on their their placement in the conference. So they asked for it to be the way that it is, and it's bit them. Plus they lost they lost to somebody that if they had won, they would have been squarely in. I can't remember what team it was, but
Miami,
yeah.
probably.
Is it Miami? I think it was Miami.
They
yeah.
lost, Miami and Texas A&M this year.
yeah. See, that's the thing is they're 2 losses. If you want good losses, those are good losses. Those are teams in the playoffs.
Right.
But they don't
So-
have any good wins is the problem, which is another thing about college football that's just like, and I used to love college football, but this whole thing is just a popularity contest to who gets in the playoffs. And it's just utterly baffling to me. And I just want to, the argument about they should join a conference, I think that as well. However, I can understand it from Notre Dame's standpoint. You're asking them to take a revenue loss and you're asking them to take a back seat to other teams. So if they were to go to the Big Ten, they would lose all this money that they get for signing their own TV network deal with NBC. And then they wouldn't be the marquee team. They would be 3rd or 4th in the pecking
Yeah,
order.
maybe even lower. Yeah.
Maybe even lower. Yeah. So you're asking them to go from national brand to an also ran.
I mean, if they were going to string it together some consistently good seasons, would that not change? Could that not change?
You want them to earn it?
Yeah, was that like that whole like earn it, show your worth type of thing, that concept that the kids have forgotten these days?
There's been a
That's
chain
why that bowl game, I mean, it was more players than the organization or the university and the coaches, but it's brutal because I would assume if you're a conference, you don't have a conference championship game, you're not making the playoff, then you probably should go to the bowl game and get some attention, or else you're stuck in your cake SEC schedule. Next year, they're only set up for 3 away games. I think it's like Purdue, maybe USC, and some really other easy cake matchup. They give themselves one of the easiest schedules. They don't play big teams and big stadiums. They what do you expect? You don't have a conference. How are you going to build your brand? I think they just, pat that sign every day on the way to the stadium and assume everyone's going to root for Notre Dame and know who Notre Dame is. And I think eventually, exactly what you're saying, Rob, you got to show it on the field. people have short memories. They're not thinking about 20 years ago Notre Dame football right now. And you better go to the bowl game. You better show up. You better go play in the Dallas Cowboys stadiums of the world, or some other big places that these other conference championships are in, or we're going to forget about Notre Dame very quickly.
Are you guys familiar with
Rudy
how
doesn't
this
count anymore, right?
Yeah.
Are you guys familiar with how Notre Dame ended up an independent in the first place?
Two
Not
teams
exactly.
did, right? Together.
There's been
Educated.
several. There's
Okay,
been several
yeah.
independent, but I mean, for 30 years they tried to get in the Big Ten, and they kept as a religious institution being told to hit the road. So they decide that's how they ended up in the 40s, like building their brand and becoming the up until recently the face of college football. And then they were just able to finagle network deals where they're making more money than anybody else. I think that's no longer the case. I think if you're a participant member of the SEC, you make, if not the same, a little bit more than Notre Dame does. So they look like a, not to use this in a derogatory term, but like a boomer. The world has passed them by. Okay, I used it in a derogatory term. I didn't mean
That's
to,
fine.
but
You're good.
there we go. Boomers aren't listening to this show anyway. But no, anyway, that's how they got there. So, it's based off of spite and, a desire to show everybody else, who they really are. And that has permeated for decades upon decades.
Yeah, I just think, private equity is getting involved in college. Teams are not showing up to bowl games. Players are off in the portal before their bowl games. Like, it's just a lot is changing in college football right now. And
Well,
I hope it ends up, they end up right side up when it all kind of settles.
Well, once private equity gets involved, this is basically a minor league, right? Maybe at some point what you do is you just have each NFL team say, you know what, I'm going to sponsor a college. And if anybody's familiar with academy systems in other countries, or even the Mariners have an academy in Dominican Republic, and it's an actual school. Sometimes people go to class, and they're automatic. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nathan. They're automatically a signee with the Mariners, right? Even at age 14, 15.
I'm not sure exactly how that works, to be honest. I don't know if they just get some kind of privilege to get signed. I don't know if it's a guaranteed signing or not.
Okay.
If you have to from the academy, or potentially as well, it's maybe if you make it to a certain age, then you get into the international draft. I'm not sure, because I don't remember teams getting just everyone directly from their academy. It's more I've seen it as once they're signed. So maybe it's just a better chance of signing the player or something like that.
Right. I know it's some sort of reserve clause, but I don't know how
Okay.
embedded it is. But at that point, when it becomes a de facto minor league, would we see a farm system? Would we see a system where the Seahawks, let's just say, have players from the Northwest, like Oregon State, UW, et cetera, and that's their territory? Or is it a system where they just get first dibs on players throughout the different colleges?
Yeah, I just know
do you wanna
Congress
see-
is
and do
looking
you wanna
at
see
the
that?
start of this. I mean, Congress is looking at like the Big 12 trying to sign this $2.5 billion deal with an equity firm from Saudi Arabia, and congressmen have already said, "Hey, see what happens when you set this up. What we're going to do to your trust system." I don't know if it's there yet where it can happen, but they're trying to do it, and I'm pretty sure. I mean, Utah was also signing. Look like a $500 million deal, trying to with a private equity firm, and Congress is looking at that already as they're not. I don't think they're going to let that happen without a lawsuit. So I think we have to see from there as well.
Remember when we used to talk about football? And not
We're all about
how much
litigation
money.
now.
Yeah, it's awful. Well, let's go back to this. Let's go back to the NFL if we could. I was looking at some of the AFC teams, and I almost feel like there's two different brands of football being played. Like, I think the AFC is like vastly inferior to the NFC. Like, let's just take the top 6 teams. Okay, I'm not talking about like there's garbage teams in both conferences, but is it me, or do you think there's some frauds in the AFC? Like, I think New England's a fraud.
Yeah, New England has been a huge beneficiary, right? When it comes to their schedule. Now they knocked off Buffalo. I mean, that's legit, but Buffalo
Okay.
has been hot and cold, But at some point, you do have to go back to that old saying that you are where your record says you are, right? Like, I mean, that they are 11-2. So, I mean, it's hard to do in the NFL. It doesn't matter. Like, yeah, your schedule was, quote unquote, easy or whatever, but they're 11-2. they that's a big deal. So we have to at least give them their flowers in that sense. But yeah, you've got a 7-win AFC North leader. You've got a 9-win AFC South leader, and neither of them look to be world beaters. So yeah, there's it definitely gives that the AFC maybe not frauds, but just not quite as strong as the NFC.
Yeah, and I guess when you look at Denver and you look at New England, the one advantage they've given themselves with their Sherman soft schedules are Denver's not as soft a schedule, but the Patriots, they get to have, if they get home field advantage, it's gonna be kind of hard to go up into the frozen wastelands, right?
Yeah, I've been loving what I've been seeing in the NFC. I think that Monday night game where it's the Texans against the Chiefs, and we've seen it for however many years now, where it's Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. It's been this quarterback, really heavy AFC. It feels like they're untouchable. How are any of these smaller teams that don't have this marquee quarterback, how are they going to compete? And this year feels like the defense has won. Denver's winning on defense. Houston's winning on defense. New England's winning on defense. And it's really fun to watch. I've liked it in the regular season. In the playoffs, though, I think it ends up coming down to quarterbacks historically. And we'll see if Buffalo can sneak in, if Baltimore can sneak in, Mahomes and the Chiefs. I don't know if I have seen it enough this year with the defense where I think Denver can beat a Chiefs team at home, or New England can beat a Buffalo team at home once the playoffs start. But it has been awesome to see this kind of defensive resurgence. And I think it's a story of the whole NFL as well. I think quarterbacks have been losing to the defenses this year as a whole. But man, I still feel like come playoff time, those big games, Josh Allen ends up figuring it out. Mahomes ends up figuring it out.
Well, listen, you got to look at it like this as well. The Chiefs might not make the playoffs, and I think if the Chiefs don't make the playoffs, it's wide open in the AFC. I don't know. I don't know who can't beat somebody else in the AFC once you get to the playoffs. If Mahomes is not there, I don't care if Mahomes trips, stumbles, and falls backwards into the playoffs. Once he gets there, it's probably his game to lose, right? So, I'm gonna bet with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. Period. But if they don't make it, you could be seeing Jacksonville in February for all we know.
Yeah.
How are they? Oh my God.
Yeah.
How are
right.
they on top? Every game I've watched maybe 3 games with them this year, and they look like a clown show.
Yeah.
They must just be great in all the games I don't watch them. I don't know.
Their defense shows up. I mean, the Seahawks games, they really didn't, but the defense has been showing up pretty much every week for them. Just, again, we're seeing it with these teams. I don't know. Drake May maybe looks like the best out of them, but Bo Nix has looked just brutal in some games. Lawrence has had a really tough year again.
Bo Nix is a huge beneficiary of his defense.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. But I think for me, it's just one of those guys will make it. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Mahomes, one of those guys will make it in. And we'll see. I think Jackson has the worst track record in the playoffs, but I could still see one of those guys just willing their team through the playoffs. It's just not going to be all of them this year, which is crazy.
You didn't mention Aaron Rodgers, who is stumbling and bumbling his way to a 500 record, which might win the AFC North.
Yeah.
Hey,
if TJ Watt didn't get stabbed in the lung, I'd be
right. Yeah,
I'd be a little more excited about them.
How does that? Yeah. That keeps happening every few years. Somebody gets stabbed in the chest in the lung by one of their own staff. Like it's weird. One of their own
physicians or
the physicians or whatever. The guys that are on the payroll. It's like they're trying to take them out. But yeah, no. And look at Aaron Rodgers. DK Metcalf got a little bit of continuity between each other as well. So they might be able to strike.
I don't know, man. That entire AFC North, I just had to pull them up because I couldn't remember who's in the lead in that division. And the entire division is under their negatives in a point differential. All of them. Every single last one.
And Burrow, I think the Bengals are going to fire their coach. I don't know what happens with the Steelers if Tomlin goes to another wild card game and loses. Harbaugh's on the hot seat. They're saying Browns, I think, should fire their coach. In my opinion, the North is not the North this year that it usually is.
If you're the Ravens, don't you give this season kind of like a mulligan because the quarterback was out for a little while?
Oh, I give it a mulligan for sure. But those crazy fans up there in the Northeast, they see blood in the water that they want the head of the coach right away. I think he's got until he retires for me. But
yeah, you never get rid of Harbaugh until he's dementia ridden.
I'd say the same thing for Mike Tomlin. I mean, like some coaches have just earned it. Harbaugh is one of them. Tomlin for sure. You don't fire. It's just certain guys. I mean, Bill Belichick. You don't fire him. Not, in my opinion. I just there's certain guys that you just do it. Whatever they say is right, even if it doesn't work out, in my opinion. But
well, I thought the Pittsburgh situation was the GM's fault. That they had been rolling for decades, based off of, we're not going to pay the highest contract except for maybe, one or two guys. We're just going to keep building through the draft and keep building through the draft. And now they're just starting to screw up their salary cap situation and they're making bad trades. I don't know. It's a talent problem on that team, not a Tomlin problem.
Well, you think the DK Metcalf was a bad trade, right?
I think it's a bad
I
trade.
guess it wasn't a trade, but you think that them signing DK, you don't think DK Metcalf going to Pittsburgh was a?
That's not the case.
I think it was a trade too. I think it was like
was a
trade?
round move.
Okay,
but it was
that's right.
It was the dumping of George Pickens for him. It's the mismanagement of. They shouldn't have drafted Kenny Pickett in the first place. They should have had already been developing another quarterback underneath Roethlisberger. He was waiting last second and overdrafting a guy who didn't have the measurables. It's a lot of things, Rob. It's kind of like just compounding. It's almost like when in the 90s for the Seahawks, when what's his face? Who's the quarterback? Who's the coach and GM? Went to the Hall of Fame. The former Raiders guy.
Tom Flores?
Thank you. I was totally spacing. They gave him the GM. Not saying this is the exact same. I'm saying like him as a GM was a disaster. And it ended up ruining our franchise for a whole decade.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on over in Pittsburgh. I'm not looking at it every day, but whatever they've done, they dismantled what was working for several decades.
Yeah, for me, it's a little bit too like Tomlin's been a victim of his own success where they haven't, you're exactly right. They haven't put, in my opinion, the most competent rosters on the field, but Tomlin's such a good coach that he somehow gets them to a winning record, gets them to the playoffs. But then now, who do we, we're in the playoffs. Do we really fire one of those recruiting guys, one of those drafting scout guys? And they're kind of in this limbo. And I think that's one of the most dangerous spots to be in the NFL. And that's where, now I'm sitting here hating the Pete Carroll trade originally, very happy now about the Pete Carroll trade because we avoided some of that limbo. We had a non-playoff year last year that was close to the playoffs, but we kind of reset things, reset the organization, had that time to kind of develop. And now, in my opinion, we have the best roster. Quarterback might end up winning the Super Bowl in the end of things once playoffs show up. But in terms of roster, we have the best roster now. And I think that matters a lot. I think you keep Tomlin because he'll take a 5-win team to the playoffs, but you need to get some kind of churning going, roster churning, switch up the GM, whatever you need to do, because it's pretty brutal to be that 9-10 win team losing in the first round of the playoffs every year. And it's not getting you long-term anywhere. You're not going to get to the Super Bowl that way, in my opinion. You're not going to fall into Aaron Rodgers having, his Barry Bonds steroid year and just being the best quarterback out of the blue. You need to develop a roster around a guy like him if you don't have that prime Big Ben anymore. And I think that's what I see with the Steelers is they're going to get you the 9-10 wins because they have one of the best coaches in the NFL, but he can't take you further because at the end of the day, that some of these just unreal rosters in New England or Denver are going to beat a team like that if you don't have an elite.
And well,
I don't get this.
Middling. Sorry, Abe. I was going to say middling is kind of a recipe for disaster anyway, right? Because you're never going to be low enough to get that high draft pick that a lot of teams need. You know what I mean? So you're kind of just sticking yourself into purgatory in a way.
Yeah. By the way, I don't like your insinuation that Aaron Rodgers uses steroids. It's obvious the illegal substances that he uses are DMT and ayahuasca. So, get it right, Nathan.
I think I don't see it. His arms are always pretty small. I feel like he's got. I don't know if steroids is going to help that flick of the wrist too much that he has, or that what he's got in his head that just always makes the right read. And seeing him move around the football field, he doesn't look too athletic to me. So
Wait, do you have
I'm
any
not that worried
evidence for
about it.
this claim of steroids or?
No, I'm saying more that
Okay.
if he magically had that Barry Bonds tail end of his career out of the blue,
Okay.
45 touchdown season, looking like an Impala out there on the field, Barry Sanders, that type of thing, juking people, then we could have that conversation. But I don't see that. And I think they're not probably going to get an elite quarterback out of free agency, most likely. So they do need some type of churning, some turnover, maybe a 5-loss season where, hey, we're fully behind Tomlin, but we're taking this season off, getting our cap in order so that we can get a high draft pick, get a Drake May, get that type of player, and then we're off to the races again. Because I think exactly the steroid era is basically over with that. You're not going to juice up Aaron Rodgers to take you to the Super Bowl, in my opinion. Yeah.
Thanks. I was going to have to put a disclaimer that the views of Nathan Savage are strictly his own and not the views of.
Do not represent the views of Seattle Sports Union.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, Nathan, if you want to go smoke some hallucinogens with Aaron Rodgers, feel free.
Yeah. Yeah, we can talk about, that side of the drugs part of PEDs, but I don't know if that's enhancing his performance, any of those drugs that he's doing. So, yeah.
Where were we going with that? Oh, we're talking about the AFC. I don't know. Looking at the top teams, I just feel like the top teams in the NFC are better. Even the stumbling Eagles, I think roster 1 through 53, are better than the Patriots, the Broncos. I'd say the same thing for the Seahawks. I'd say the same thing for the, Niners, Rams. Yeah, that top set seemed to be really good. And granted, we've got our pathetic little division, the NFC South, ourselves, so it's not like we're lacking in stumble bums. But I don't know. I just feel like the NFC winner becomes the Super Bowl winner.
So I'll stop you there with the Eagles because the Broncos did beat the Eagles this year. But I do think,
I said roster 1 through 53, I think is better.
I think the Broncos have an insane roster. I just think Bo Nix won't show up maybe in the playoffs for them. For me, the Rams and the Seahawks, though, I think this is their year to lose. They have even versus AFC, NFC, whoever on any given Sunday, it's going to end up coming down to close games and turnovers and things like that. But in terms of roster, I think they're, ahead above everyone in the AFC and also in the NFC, in my opinion. And that's why I agree with you that the NFC is kind of carrying the horse, is the horse in the race this year with those two teams just looking just unreal. Their roster construction is crazy.
It's exasperating to me that their two best players, probably the two best players on all of the winners, out for the season, and they're still racking up wins. Fred Warner and Bosa, right? They're both out for the season, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And
a number of players on offense were out for significant portions of the year.
Purdy's been injured the majority of the year. Yep.
Yeah.
Kittle was out the majority of the year. Ayuk's out for the whole year, basically.
Crazy.
That's how they got 9 wins.
Makes them,
what would they have?
The most scary team, I think, honestly. And I hate saying it because I have zero negative love for the 49ers. I just can't. I look at the standings. I see they're only a game back, and it's just like, wow, where the West is going to send 3 teams to the postseason, and anything goes at that point. You know what I mean? Like I'm confident that the Rams, Seahawks, or Niners will be in the Super Bowl. I think we go in. Panthers are a non-issue. I think Packers, Bears could be potentially scary. Eagles, not worried about it, like Nate said. So somebody is going to have to play the NFC West, and no one really wants to. I think they just know that we're strong. But the problem is, it's the damn 49ers still there.
Yeah.
My dream scenario, because you mentioned the Packers, and I'm also worried about the Packers. They seem like another team that's roster hasn't quite gelled yet, but just the guys on the field looks very scary. And I'm hoping my dream scenario is the Niners somehow get the Packers round 1. Because no matter what, no matter how good the Packers are, no matter what Aaron Rodgers was doing, no matter if the Niners had their 4-string quarterback out there, Niners will always beat the Packers, it seems. So we can get Packers out of the way with the Niners, and I just think I agree fully that if you want to be the Seahawks and you want to win the Super Bowl, you got to beat those NFC West teams. And I'm okay facing them in the playoffs because that's what you want to see, right? You want to see if your team can beat the best. And I think any given Sunday, the Seahawks definitely can. It's just going to come down again to turnovers, some of these close game situations. But yeah, it's definitely the most stacked division in the NFL this year.
It seems extremely strange to say that a 10-3 team in the Seahawks dug themselves a hole. We lost a game to the Niners and the Rams. That means these are must wins coming up, in the future weeks against those teams. It's the old division games are worth a game and a half, essentially. We were left out of the playoffs last year due to tiebreakers. We're losing the tiebreakers here.
Yeah, it's safe to say that the playoffs have already started for us, and that goes for a lot of teams, but for sure, I mean, to drop a game now, I mean, obviously the Niners and Rams games are the most important, but to drop a game at this point, when you consider the schedules that the other two teams have, I mean, it could be damning, so we really need to try to find a way to win out. Like winning out would be ideal. The games that we have left this season, I think they're winnable. The only question marks again are these two division games. So yeah, even if we split them, as long as if whatever team that we have that we lose to, as long as they finish with a worse record than us, then good. But I think the Rams is the biggest one. We beat the Rams, I think we win the division, just given all that's in front of us. But yeah, it remains to be seen. But it's big. The playoffs have already started. It's you got to win. You got to win at this point.
Who do we have coming up?
So things got a lot easier because of the injury, the Jones injury, but our schedule was one of the toughest in the NFL with
who do we
Colts,
have? Who do we have?
Rams,
Colts.
Panthers just beat the Rams, and then Niners to end the season.
Yeah, the Panthers have been looking good. Actually, this looks like, thank goodness Jones got injured because this looked like it still is a really hard end of the season because the Colts they're still in it, right? They still have a chance.
Well, they're front and center. I think they're still leading the division. It's just
no, Jaguars just jumped. I'm looking right now. Jaguars just jumped them.
But they're right there, and they've beat the teams in their division because of how well they started the season. But they've been falling apart lately, even before the Jones injury, and I think that's kind of why the Seahawks are 14-point favorites. Is just they were already falling apart. Now Jones is injured. What are you going to get out of a undrafted rookie or a 44-year-old Phillip Rivers? It's a bummer because I really liked what they were doing. It's nice that we're playing them now versus, game 4 or game 3 of the season.
When they were hot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to look past the Colts, but guys, another effing Thursday night game. And this one actually matters. And it just seems like every Thursday night game, am I wrong? Something hideously bad happens to us.
Well, the good news is it's not a Thursday night game in Arizona, right? So that's the recipe for disaster, right?
Okay.
But yeah, no, a Thursday night game, especially at this point in the season where, again, like I said, where these games matter for us. And if at all possible, winning out is the ideal thing. So Thursday night game, something terrible happens. If we get somebody who gets rolled up on and we get an ankle or a knee or something like that, and it throws off the consistency on offense or defense, now we're like, now what? Now what do we do, right? So yeah, throwing a Thursday night game in there late is rough. But again, it's not in Arizona. All the bad things happen in Arizona on Thursday night.
Yeah.
So
also the Rams, I can't remember who they're playing, but they have a really tough matchup this week as well. And but man, even a guy like JSN, his legs looked a little tired to me last week. He came off the field a couple times. He was squatting down on his legs. Almost looked like hamstring a little bit. He just looked a little bit tired in his legs. And yeah, it's crunch time. I love this. But for me, last year, I think, this week or last week, Darnold set the record. He broke Tom Brady's record for the most wins with 2 different teams in 2 seasons. But last year, the story ended up being not about, the unreal year they had. I think they only had 3 losses in the regular season. It was he lost to 2 teams last year. That's it. And he lost to Detroit and LA. And for me, the story will be a little bit about that again if we can't beat LA on Thursday, because as good as you can play, as much as we're dominating the Colts of the world, the Falcons of the world, The playoffs is about, can you beat the top teams? And we're going to get that on Thursday. And I just really want to see that narrative go out the window immediately and him have a good game. I think our roster is just better. We played the Rams better than anyone, in my opinion, all season long. McVay looked shell-shocked. Talking in the postgame, he was celebrating, but he said, man, that's the worst. Basically, that we got to figure some things out on offense. They really took it to them, completely shut them down on offense and defense. It's just those 4 interceptions, and, you don't win any of those games, basically. So
it's just 4 interceptions. That's all.
I just really don't want to see that. It reminds me of the Purdy Niners, where they had just this unreal roster. Couldn't get the Super Bowl, though, because against these big teams, he would throw too many interceptions. Any way you can just avoid them. I've liked the way he's thrown the ball lately. I think our offense is a little more stagnant because of that, but we've been blowing out teams because our defense can take over then, and we don't have to worry about as many short fields and these turnovers. So I think we can win 9 out of 10 games, 8 out of 10 games if Darnold throws just 1 interception or no turnovers, regardless of how well the offense is playing because of that, just because of the defense is unreal.
Yeah, I'll take 1 pick. Even if it was 1 pick a game. Okay, that's 16 interceptions. That seems kind of ugly, but I mean, again, we lost by 2 with a chance to walk off kick a walk-off field goal against the Rams. That was 4 picks. You give us just 1 back, and we probably win that game, right? So I'm okay with Donald throwing 1, especially if it's off the hands of somebody, and on a tip ball or some. I think the last pick you threw was a off the hands of a receiver when on a contested catch. So okay, I'm okay with that. But to Nate's point a moment ago, I said that JSN looked a little, legs looked a little maybe wobbly or weak last week, and he's actually was on the injury report, but without an injury designation. So they just rested him. So to that point, maybe he just needed a blow, just let himself recoup and recover, so he's ready to go for this final push. So we'll see.
I would wonder if we look at the Colts game. I would wonder if the coaching staff maybe gets a little overly conservative, trying to rest guys for the Rams game. I would
can't
hope
do that.
Not.
Yeah, we're looking past this week. We're committing the Cardinal sin.
I'm
but
looking
don't do
past
that,
it. Yeah,
Seahawks.
definitely.
Yeah, don't do that. The players, don't do that. The coaches. We can do some of that, but yeah, it's tomorrow. That's all that matters. Is tomorrow, and Thursday comes very quickly. But yeah, they need to. Basically, if they lose, in my opinion, if they lose to either the Panthers or the Colts, kiss the division goodbye. They're going to be a wild card team having to play right away. So yeah, that first round bye looks really nice. Winning the division, getting a home game looks really nice, but it starts with tomorrow, not Thursday. But we can talk about Thursday. But yeah,
I feel weird because we're a great road team, but still NFL history tells me that if you end up going to Green Bay, if you end up going to, Philadelphia in the cold, Chicago, it's not going to turn out well for you. And I would like to avoid that if possible.
Yeah, and I don't think Rivers ever. I remember some insane Chargers teams with him, and if he's playing, I remember him not liking the cold very much, and especially not liking the wet. I think he's a double gloves guy, and I don't see that working ever very well when it's cold and wet. But definitely for him, he's not. He likes the dome. He likes the warm weather. He'll be already, hopefully, in the Hall of Fame just on the grit he's had in his career and how long of a career he's had. But I think that's another big advantage for the Seahawks if it ends up being, I don't want flood levels of rain. I want a little bit of rain and cold. But yeah, just so many of these things are stacked on the Seahawks side. I think even the cheaper tickets with the Jones injury lets a lot more of those 12s into the stadium. That's going to be great for them. But the more we talk about the good things, the more I get a little bit nervous because we just cannot look ahead as a team to Thursday.
Yeah, I
got a question for you guys. I got a question for you about Cooper Kupp, because if JSN's going to be on a pitch count or whatever, what do you think about Cooper Kupp and Rashid Shaheed in their ability to contribute? I am completely satisfied, but I am completely biased when it comes to Cooper Kupp. He could have came in here and caught nothing and just handed out hot dogs, and I'd be like, he's the greatest person that's ever walked the earth. 36 receptions. I'm just reading off here. 73 yards, 2 touchdowns. So let's say he finishes with 45 catches, 600 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Is that what you wanted out of him? Or did you want
I
more?
I think so. When the year started, we had some receivers that we were hoping that were going to be contributors, like Derek Young, and so Cooper Cup was just hopefully going to be that veteran presence to make his just to be there and be ready to perform when the ball came his way. We weren't expecting him to be a X factor for us. I don't believe. I certainly wasn't. But he has performed in the times where we get the ball to him. I have had a little bit of concern about why we aren't finding him as much, because I think he's been on the field, a considerable amount. But when he played, he's getting his reps. So why we're not able to find him, out there in the field has been a question in my head, but I haven't really done too much research on it. But because JSN has just taken so much of the focus. But yeah, no, and actually Cooper Cup is actually on that same injury list that JSN is on, but just to rest, no injury designation. So I don't know, but when we get to this point of the season, maybe a veteran guy like Cooper Cup, he shows up. I mean, starts being a more of a focal point.
Yeah.
Nathan, can you get past your personal hatred to evaluate this honestly?
Yeah, so for me, definitely not worth it at all in terms of production on the field. We're paying too much money for that yardage and those touchdowns, that number of catches. I agree with you though. I've just fully drank the Kool-Aid this season. I don't care if he never sees the football field again for the rest of the season. All these videos of him getting up, at 4 a.m. to go with the quarterback room, go over the game tape with him. JSN saying he's a huge part of what he's done this season. Seeing him on the sidelines when he's been injured with, an iPad going over plays, talking to Darnold, talking to wide receivers. That guy has a future as a coach in the NFL right away, in my opinion. And I would give him an MVP, one of the MVPs of this season, without a doubt. Like just right away, seeing what the wide receivers are doing, seeing the way they're blocking, seeing the way they're so engaged. Like I think it's been talked about a lot in podcasts, but a lot of players have been coming out talking about how this team is one of those teams that is the team. And like Leonard Williams was saying, this is the team that's had the most fun playing football he's ever seen. From everything we hear about Cooper Cup, that's who he is. That's just day one, who he is as a football player. I think just with the way this team is playing, the way the roster is constructed, that's one of the best deals you can get for a guy like Cooper Cup. It's too bad in my opinion, some of these worries we saw last year with the Rams are still there in terms of getting out of routes, getting separation, but it doesn't bother me at all. He's always blocking. He loves football. The locker room's better than it's basically ever been on a team for many of these veterans that are talking about this Seahawks locker room. And he's a big part of why we have the best wide receiver season ever as a Seahawk, I would say, and maybe the best wide receiver in the NFL this year. So yeah, I'm all in on Cooper Cup. Sorry to make that a long answer, but I can't talk enough about how awesome he's been for the Seahawks.
So Elijah Arroyo, AJ Barner, Cooper Cup have 129 targets. JSN has 121. So you're not wrong. They have not been looking. They've been looking to JSN for every time they've been looking at anybody else, basically.
Yeah, we need Horton back too. I'm wondering what's going on with him. I'm wondering if this injury is something to do with what he came in onto the team with, because
Yeah.
it didn't seem like as serious of an injury the way they're talking about it. But hopefully come playoff time, they get Horton back, because I do think the offense looked, as much as I like Shaheed, the offense looked better with Horton, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
hopefully he
And
can come back.
do you guys know if his injury is related to what he had at Colorado State?
I didn't think directly. It was like a calf or like a shin situation, but I don't know if just part of the recovery of getting injured somewhere as other areas are going to be affected because they're compensating or what. But I haven't heard basically any news about him. Almost seems like they've shut him down a little bit. So yeah.
So the Huskies play Boise State tonight. So my question is obviously, why does Myles Gaskin get the yo-yo treatment? I swear, every time I look, I get an alert that says Myles Gaskin dropped from the team. 20 minutes later, he's been picked back up. Next thing you know, he's in a game. Next thing you know, there's a guy named Velais Jones in the game. And I'm like, what are they doing? Does
Who had a
anybody
big
know?
run? Who had a big run?
He did.
Yeah, it looked fast. Yeah.
Anybody know what's going on with that, or is that just Myles Gaskin lives in the area and he's easy to?
For me,
Has
it's
to
a
come
little
in.
bit of this new NFL. I don't know if the rules changed or what exactly is going on, but they're doing it with acres as well. And I think I don't know if teams have stopped poaching other players as much off waivers or what is exactly going on, but I think I've seen this kind of throughout the NFL. And we'll see it in quarterback rooms. We'll see it in Seahawks in terms of their running back room, whether it's practice squad, getting cut. I think there's some rule about that where once they're on a roster for a certain amount of time, they have to stay on the roster, can't go back to the practice squad. I'm not sure every part of the rule book there, but it's something I think to do with the rules and the way it's set up. And I don't think Gaskin's taking it personally. I think it's just a administrative kind of thing with that.
I
was
wonder if
actually
there's.
excited to see Cam Akers, coming out as a spell back for somebody.
Yeah.
Haven't seen him run in a long time, but when we signed him, I was like, oh, okay, this might be all right. Let's see what happens
Yeah.
here. But
I
we're
do wonder
set
if
at the
that's one
running
of.
back position.
Yeah, nobody's breaking in the top two. That's for sure. I
Right.
wonder if part of it's too is maybe there's a set of skills that Akers or Gaskin or Jones Jr. has where, okay, the team we're going up against has a running back like this guy, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd like to get more information
I
on
also think I'm hoping a little bit that 4 a.m. meeting had McDonald, Cooper Kupp, and Akers talking about everything the Rams offense does a few weeks ago.
Who
as
knows?
well. Who
Maybe
knows, right?
Maybe that could be it. Is you bring somebody in like you're just on this roster, tell us everything you know and what its weaknesses, and we'll pay you money.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
'Cause-
getting money for it.
Yeah, if you're a guy who gets cut by a team, what's your loyalty to that team? I'll
Yeah,
sell out,
right.
right?
Yeah, it's a business
Absolutely.
for sure.
What are you guys looking for against the Colts? Is there a particular player that you're looking to see make a comeback, or is there a side of the ball that you want to see some better output from?
I'm looking for just general consistency. I want to see, I don't have any one particular player, I don't think. We've talked before about how Kenneth Walker seems to be a little bit not I don't know if it's slow or just he's not putting up big numbers like we would hope. But the running game is putting up the numbers are certainly good enough. So I have this thing in the back of my mind that we're just kind of keeping guys on the pitch count. So when the playoffs get here, we can run the football in the cold and the rain. That's really going to be how you win games in the playoffs. So I'm holding on to that. But what I really want to see is this Colts offense look horrible. I mean, look like it shouldn't even be on the same field against this Seattle defense. I don't want to see tight ends open in the middle of the field or deep crossing routes just wide open because you got a safety to suck down. Or pull them off with a deep ball, or whatever. Like I just want to see domination on defense because this is a game that we again should dominate. And we've done pretty well out this year. We beat up on teams that we should beat up on. Some of the games looked a little questionable early, but by the time we got to the end, it was they were victories, obviously. So I want to see that out the gate tomorrow. I want to see just a whooping of this Colts team because they're reeling. They've got nothing good going for them right now. They're one dimensional at the very best with Jonathan Taylor. And if in that situation, we should be able to shut them down truly.
Yeah, that's definitely a good thing to look for because it's either there's something a step slower with K9 or they're not using him right, and I don't know what it is. I haven't been able to put my finger on it, and I'd like to see, something a little more crisp. But the guy that I'm looking at is Drake Thomas, linebacker. Did he secretly, not secretly, that's the wrong word. Did he under the radar just take Tyrese Knight's job? Trice Knight.
Yeah, you gotta say it your way, Abe. Trice. You gotta say Trice.
Stop learning how to say people's names.
You actually said it right the first time this time, which is it sounded odd. Like
Yeah.
wait a minute. No, I think we got a position battle there, if nothing else. I mean, he makes plays. It seems not only just every game, but multiple times a game. He's just there. He's around the ball. Yeah, I at the very least, we might have a bit of a position battle there, or or they can both play, even better. But I'm loving seeing him on the field.
Yeah, for me, I think in the NFL, you'll have these elite defenses that'll show up every once in a while. And I think the Seahawks are starting to make a name for themselves. I think they're, they want to name like the dark side or things like that. They want to keep it long term, but I think just like any anything else, offenses are going to have an area on paper that you can attack, even on the best defenses. And for me this year, it's been kind of tight end and the screen pass against the Seahawks defense. So it's again, I mean, they shut down two of the best who just went off against the Bucs yesterday in Robinson and Kyle Pitts. And I think a big part of that's Emmanwori. And I think part of that is also Love getting back, which unlocks Emmanwori to go do what we drafted him for, to go fill those holes, to find those gaps, find where the defense is getting attacked and just shut the door. And for me, again, talking about Rivers, I don't know if it's going to be Rivers, but we do know who the running back and tight end are going to be for the Colts. And again, they're two of the best in the NFL. And you could say a guy like Warren matches up very well athletically with anyone in the NFL, just like Emmanwori does. And we know everything about Jonathan Taylor from his continued success the last few years. So for me, it's going to be that screen pass and tight end game. I just want to see it again kind of get shut down, because I think that's an area that's been circled as hey, this is one weakness, or this is one perceived weakness of the Seahawks defense right now. And I loved what happened last week when we got Love back and Emmanwori took over the game. And I want to see that again, because come playoff time, those offenses are going to be completely dialed into what you're doing on defense. And we got to shut some of those doors down. We got to make sure there's not holes on the field that they can take advantage of. And I was like just in awe of what I saw from, Thomas as well in there helping cover. And then Emmanwori, the way they were switching coverages, Thomas was up at the line blitzing on Emmanwori's sack. He comes back, runs all the way across the field, fills the hole that Emmanwori was in so he can come blitz the quarterback and get the big sack there. Cousins looked right at that hole. He knew, hey, I'm going to throw to where the rusher came from. Thomas was lined up right there, ran all the way across the field to cover it. Just unreal defensive scheme from McDonald. And I think Love being back there and so solid can unlock some of these options for a McDonald defense. And I think we can talk, all week about Pitts having 4 touchdowns, 200 yards, just breaking records. That didn't happen against the Seahawks though.
No.
And I think that's the strength of just really solidifying the defense, getting everyone healthy. And I want to see tight end get shut down again.
Right on. By the way, Monday night game, is it Monday night or Thursday night game?
Thursday. Oh yeah.
His elbow was out of bounds. His butt did not touch.
Yeah. For
Still
his
fun.
third touchdown, right? But the other two you're still happy with.
I totally thought that they were out of it. I thought the Falcons were beat and just going to wrap.
And it looked like he was fumbling it a little too much for me too. But
it was crazy. A judgment call, but
we don't know what a catch is. We have no more idea what a catch is than we ever did since Des Bryant against Green Bay. We still have no clue what a catch is.
I was thinking the Megatron.
Or the Megatron one. That one, yeah. I mean, yeah. What's a catch? What is a catch?
We talked at the start of this conversation about Notre Dame and their quality losses, and I thought the Bucs was a quality loss, but the Mayfield injury, some of the injuries on the O-line, that's wide open as well in the NFC South. We have just no idea what's going on there. So, that was a crazy game.
All right. That should be a lot of fun. All right. We're getting towards the end of the show. Let's go ahead and do our predictions for the Colts and the Seahawks. I can get this one started. I think this one's a win. I think it's a low scoring game. And I'm going to go with 21-7 Seahawks win.
Go ahead, Nate.
I think they're going to cover the spread. And I think, again, they might start a little bit slowly running the ball up, but things are going to really open up second half. And I see them winning 31-10, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same. What was that? What did I say? 13 and a half or 14 is the spread. I think we cover and then some. I say we win the game running away at least 3 scores. I'm going to say we get close to a 40 burger. I'm going to say 38 13. A good old whooping there.
When you said 3 scores, I was thinking 9-0. Is that
I would love that, by the way. That would be that. I know people don't like those low scoring games, but when you have a defense that can do that and shut out a team, I think it was 8 years or something since we had a shutout. I'll take a shutout anytime I see it.
Let's see. We had a shutout against the Vikings, and then what was the score against the
Was it
the
38 to
Falcons.
9 or something like that? I don't think we gave up a touchdown, right? So
it's just
yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're towards the end of our show here, and I want to thank everybody out there for listening to us, but we always finish on a shout out. So this is where we give, a little bit of thanks, for what people in our lives or things or stuff that's going on. And Nate, do you want to start us out?
Yeah, I want to shout out my sister, Amika. Her nurse practitioners at her hospital are on strike. I'm not going to say where, but there's a big hospital there that's bought the company and through contract negotiations, the nurse practitioners at the big hospital have gone on strike. So I'm just going to support her through that. Hopefully the contracts get signed, as we talk about a lot of contracts here in the NFL. So hopefully in hospital fashion as well, the contracts get all sorted out and she can go back to work.
I want to give a shout out to all the people in the Pacific Northwest that have had their property or lives affected by the torrential rain that came through here. It's really weird. One of those storms where I look out my window, I don't know, I don't see anything going on, but then you look on the news and upriver is a house that just went into the drink, so to speak. So big shout out to all of you people for putting up with these hard times, and hope you guys get through it, stay dry. How about you, Rob?
Yeah, it's funny. I actually have a friend that I went to high school with who lives right on the river there, up there where it's flooding, and they happen to, unfortunately for them, their house is just high enough to where it has become an island where
Wow.
other houses in their neighborhood have just been destroyed already. So yeah, I definitely second that. I'm actually going to do my shout out on the sports side of things. I'm going to go give mine to Clint Kubiak. The Seattle Seahawks this year have 4 30-point halves.
Yeah, crazy.
Wow.
Have. The rest of the league has 6.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, talk about, just being able to just be high powered and just come with an offensive onslaught, on multiple occasions. You got to chalk that up to, great calls on the offensive coordinator side. So, yeah, I'm shooting out good old Clint.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank everybody out there for watching us here on YouTube and listening to us on Spotify. I want to also give a quick shout out to Rob English, the Southwest Seahawk, and the Savage Nathan Savage, for being on the show. And I want to thank all of you out there for enjoying us and enjoying, hopefully, your holiday season. So please check us out on social media at Seattle Sports U, and as well like and subscribe on Facebook. Yes, Facebook. That's right. That's still around. And on behalf of all the Seattle Sports Union crowd, we'll see you guys next time.
Go Hawks.
All right.